Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Samasta Jana Kalyane Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Sadgurum Brahma Vitvaram. Om Bhadram Karne Vishrunuyama Devaha Bhadram Pashe Makshabirya Jatraha Sthirairangai Stuštuvagum Sastanobihi Vyashema Devahitam Yadayuhu Swasti na Indro Vruddhashravaha Swasti na Pusha Vishwavedaha Swasti nastarksho arishtanemihi Swasti no Brihaspatir Dhadatu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. We'll read from verse 10. Before that, the Mangala Sloka or the first verse. Manayeva manushyanam karanam bandha mokshayoho bandhaya vishaya saktam nirvishayam smritam na niroto na chotpattihi na baddho na cha sadakaha na mumukshur na vai muktaha ityesha paramartata. Eka evatma mantavyo jagraswapna sushuptishu sthanatraya vyatitasya punarjanmana vidyate. Eka eva hi bhutatma bhute bhute vyavastitah ekadha bahudha chaiva drishyate chalachandravat. We have seen that these three theories that are there in Vedanta, Vada they are called, Ekajivavada, Bahujivavada, Ajatavada. And in these verses we can clearly see what are the things covered. Bahujivavada is there in this 12th verse. Bahuda is the very word is given there. Even though Atma, Eka eva hi bhuta Atma, Bhute Bhute, in every being, Vyavastitaha is present. And Ekada Bahuda chaiva Drishyate, it appears as one as far as the individual is concerned. And as far as the world is concerned, it appears that there are many jivas, not only human. In Hinduism, we believe that not only human, but all living beings, including plants, are considered as jiva only. Anything that has life is a jiva, which is not probably the case with other Semitic religious concepts. Except human, they do not think others have souls. Whereas in Vedanta and in general, Hinduism believes that anything that expresses life, pranyade iti prani, anything breathing for its survival is a prani, and prani is a jiva. Even a tree, a small worm, and under this microscope you see bacteria, anything that has life. Life, Gurudev would say, life is none other than this truth expressed through an apparatus. So therefore, and he also says, life is a signature of, action is a signature of life. Everything and anything that has life is engaging in its own nature, in its own way, in some activity or the other. If you look at the plants that are there, And if you do not give enough sunlight to them, they look for sunlight. They go after the sunlight. That shows that they want to survive. A stone may not do that, but a plant look for where is this light, where is this water. So therefore, every being, bhute bhute vyavastitaha ekada bahuda chaiva drishyate. But Vedanta's point is that there is eka atma bahuda iva drishyate. That's the point here. In that aspect only, I have explained to you about Pratibimbavada and Avachedavada. So Pratibimbavada is that the one moonlight or moon rays coming down and reflecting in many pools of water. We are all pools of water only. Buckets of water, actually. We are all buckets of water. Body is a bucket, water is the buddhi, and in that buddhi, consciousness is reflecting as a pratibhasa, as a chidabhasa. So chidabhasa, which makes us feel that I am so and so, I have this body, I have this thought, I have this emotion. This is called the vritti, thoughts coming out of chidabhasa. So we are all buckets. That's why the terminology goes, when a person dies, we say he kicked the bucket. When you kick the bucket, the water in that goes away. Obviously the reflection also won't be there. So what happens? That individuality is apparently dead, or the light has gone back to the source, as though again it should not be considered that light is now emerging and slowly going there. It's not like that. So in the Pratibimbavada, that one moonlight is seen to be reflected in many pools of water. That is why Jala Chandravat, Jale Chandravat, in the water like the reflection of the moon. This is considered as the Pratibimbavada. This Vada has got its own plus and minus, which I have explained to you. That reflecting media decides the quality of the reflection. If the impure water, then impure reflection. Pure water, then the pure reflection. In the same way, according to the purity of the mind, so will be the expression of consciousness. If the mind is agitated, disturbed, restless and dejected, depressed, then such a person is seen to be not expressing the full nature of consciousness. The Ananda Swarupa of consciousness cannot be seen in a person who is depressed, dejected, unhappy, sorrowful. So the reflection is depending upon the quality of the mind. Secondly, every reflection needs to be different from each other. Reflection A need not look like a reflection B, because of the very fact that the quality is dependent upon the nature of the apparatus. So there are many. That's the reason why we see the manyness. One doesn't look like another, one doesn't behave like another, one doesn't react like another. So obviously the manyness is perceived, even though there is only one light coming down. Thirdly, if you remove from one bucket of water, then only there you don't see the reflection, while others will continue. Removal of one does not mean removal of all. That's why people wonder, Swamiji, if only oneself, then one person dies, then what about the others? Others will continue. So in the Bahuji Vada, that is what is to be understood. Fourthly, new reflection is possible. You bring a new bucket of water, there another light will. Everybody claps, that then a balloon is put in the birthday party is started. So new bucket of water has come now, new bucket. Relatively pure to start with, and then slowly gets polluted. So new reflection is possible. Now, therefore, another school of thought is that instead of taking the reflection as the consciousness, they give another way of, or another philosophical view called avachedavada. Chid is to cut or truncate or limit. Avacheda means the theory of limitation. Theory of limitation. What is that? So, taking the Bahujivavada itself, that is many jivas, now the concept is that like in a pot, there is space. There is pot in the space. And many pots are there, and every pot has got space. But the problem, the point here is, from the standpoint of the space, there is no limitation at all. Unlike in the case of reflection theory, where the reflection is limited only to that very container, outside it, it is not there. Or it is not seen. Correct? In a pool of water, you see the moon's reflection. Outside the pool of water, you don't see the reflection on a bare ground. So that is to say, is consciousness limited to only on the reflection? It cannot have its presence outside? That is the reason why they talk about the apparent limitation that is found in space. Limited found in the reflection theory is overcome in this theory of limitation. What is that? Apparent limitation you see is not true, that the space inside the pot is the same space outside the pot also. In fact, pot is in space. That is also another dimension. The space has no limitation. Unlike in the reflection theory, that possibility is not there, that idea cannot be brought in. So, in this, space is never conditioned, it appears to be conditioned, number one. Second is, pot is in space, and space is not in the pot. So that's why Bhagavan Krishna also said, what is that? Maya tatamidam sarvam jagatavyakta murtina matstani sarvabhutani. In me all beings are. Matstani sarvabhutani nacha aham teshu. This is a reflection, this is a avachedavada here. Nacha aham teshu. I am not limited into them, into their presence. And when you, in your mind, remove the limitation of the pot, then what you'll see? Nacha mastani bhutani. The pot is not limiting me. And if you remove the idea of potness, then where am I? What is in me? Nachamastani bhutani. They are actually not there. The names and forms you are giving, that's all. Now, you break one part. When you break one part, what happens to the space? Space continues without any disturbance. Unlike in the case of reflection, when you remove the water, there is no more reflection there. Whereas the part you break, nothing happens to the space. It continues to be. So this also is considered as another added point in the theory of limitation. Then you cannot create new spaces. You create new parts, but you cannot new spaces. Unlike in the case of the reflection theory, you create a new vessel with water, new reflection starts. Whereas in the case of part, there is no new part space is created. Space continues to be there only. Nothing new added. So when it comes to all-pervasive nature of the self is concerned, this theory of avachedavada will hold good. So here, in the next verse, it is beautifully explained by the Upanishad itself about this. Gata samvritam akasham niyamane ghate yata ghato niyetanakashah tata jivo nabopamah घट संवृतमाकाशं नियमानि घटे यथा घटो नियेतनाकाशः तथा जीवो नभोपमः यथा as just as घटे नियमाने niyamane meaning nayati means to lead niyamane while it is being led or taken away niyamane gate sati saptami gata sambrudam akasham gatena sambrudam akasham the space conditioned by pot na niyeta gata niyeta na akasha pot moves not the space tata jivo napa ubamaha upama means equal to similar to nabaha like that of space close it so like that of the space which does not move as the pot moves so also as the jiva moves consciousness does not move. Oh, that is a very moving statement, Swami. You go from point A to point B in space. Space moves with you. Similarly, you as consciousness, wherever you go, you are still consciousness only. Whenever you are consciousness only. Whether you are in the waking or dream or deep sleep. That is a movement, let us say. Consciousness does not change that, number one. Whether you are young or old, from the time you are born, so-called, when you become aware of yourself, till you die, when you start to as though become unaware of yourself, there is a continuous presence of consciousness. Dehinosmin yata dehe kaumaram yavvanam jara tata dehantara praptihi dhiraha tatra namuhyati. When you were 1 year old, 2 year old, when you are not even aware of yourself, also the consciousness was there. When you have become arrogantly youth, then also. So, gate niyamane gataha niyeta na akashaha. There are points to be understood here. So, the space is only apparently covered by the pot. Gata sambritam akasham, when it is said, it is not really speaking. But that is how we see it. Space as though covered by the pot. In the same way, the self is never conditioned by the body, mind, intellect. BMI cannot ever condition the presence of the consciousness. But that is how we feel, right? Because I feel myself here and not outside me. It is because we are looking at ourselves only from the Chidabhasa angle. From the state identified with the reflected consciousness only we are looking at ourselves as though this is me. We are not able to see. That's why in Upanishad it is said, in the state of dream, you go to places. Who goes to places? Tadejati, tannejati, taddure, tadantige. Going, as though going. So, then when the part is moved, the space doesn't move. The same way, the Paramatma, the self, has no movement at all. Akashavat, no upama. That's why the napa upama. All pervading it is, there is no question of moving. Like space cannot move anywhere. Where can space move? Where space is not? Show me where space is not. to go from that point to another. That is why when people who take to this astrologers, astronomers, right? Yeah. When they start traveling outside the earth, they see the vastness of the dark space where everything is hanging in suspension. Think about that very perception. Moment anything hangs, you look at which is making it hang, right? There must be some string there. Somebody calls fish line must be there. So you put the hand above to see whether it is connected there, side or. But the planet and all the whole galaxy is there. So you take the earth as a part, let us say. Now you think about it. Where is it staying? Where is it staying? Who is holding it? What is holding it in place? Making sure that it doesn't move from its course. So in the same way, every individual is like that. We are all suspended in that space of consciousness. And within and without. So, that is second point, the point to be. And Jiva is none other than Ishvara limited with Upadhi. Consciousness limited with Upadhi is considered as Jiva. Consciousness with unlimited Upadhi apparently is called Ishvara. Unlimited means what? There is no particular limitation of starting from here to end there. Unlimited Upadhi. In other words, the cosmos is Bhagavan's body. That is why Chidambaram. Chideva Ambaram Yasya. The space itself is cloth. Chideva Yasya Ambaram Chidambaram. So he is having the whole cosmos as his body. Just like we have this body. So that is how it is portrayed there. So when at the time of death, the Jiva loses his individual limited Upadhi. Just like the pot, when it is broken, it's no more appearing to be an individual presence. In the same way, Jiva just loses his Upadhi, but the point is, the moment the Jiva loses his Upadhi, it goes nowhere. So when we say, oh, now the soul is moving, how can it move? As consciousness, it cannot move. Now, what is called rebirth? So, that very consciousness assuming according to its karma vasana, assuming another part. So, wherever it is, there itself it assumes that part. Meaning, in the space of consciousness, it picks up another part to express based upon the karma. So, we think its birth is nothing but a new Upadhi is taken up. For the sake of our religious and perception, they say, oh, the one is going to Pitralok and then the Swargalok and this and Lok. But really speaking, the consciousness cannot go to another place. So the apparent movement of the Jiva leaving the body, etc., is relative. So that is why he said, how do we understand this? Now you see, when a person is going to sleep, what do we say? He is gone. Gone to sleep. Has he gone anywhere? What do you mean by going? In English, in Indian English, there is a funny phrase used. I am going to come. What? Are you going or coming? मैं जाके आ रहा हूँ, right? हिंदी में. Going to come. I am going to come. Where are you going and where are you coming? So are you coming to the party? Yeah, I am going to come. Are you going or coming? Similarly, as somebody has gone to sleep, has not really gone. But gone in the sense, that's why it is called relative. Gone means what? He is not available. expressing through that particular body for us to transact. So just as a person who has gone to sleep is not gone anywhere, he is pretty much present in wherever he has been, but we say gone. In the same way, when the physical body is given up, we say he gone to death, or he is no more available. What do you call that? Chala gaya. Preta. Praita. Praita means gone forever, never to come back. As though in that body is no more available. Preta. Ita means to go, preta means gone for good. So that's a preta. And we say the preta means like a kind of a ghost or preta, bhuta, all that. So anyway, so that is the point we need to understand. Gate niyamane gataha niyeta na akashaha tata jivo naba upamaha. Jiva is like that of the space when the part is destroyed. Even when the part is present, the space of consciousness continue to be. Now the question is, the variety that we see in variety of the jivas, bahuda, it is said earlier. Now that needs to be accounted for, and therefore in the 14th verse we read, Gatavat vividhakaram vidyamanam punah punah tadbhagnam na cha janati sajanati cha nityashah. Gatavat vividhakaram vidyamanam punah punah tadbhagnam na cha janati sajanati cha nityashah. Gatavat, like that of the pot, vivida akaram, varieties of akar, rupam, vivida rupam, punah punah vidyamanam, again and again are subject to be broken. Interesting thing is, every moment there are new parts created, old parts are destroyed. Now we are trying to keep the old parts as long as possible. But we never stop the new things coming out. That continuously coming out. And this also is getting old, but we are keeping it. So what happens? Naturally, the number of parts have become so much. Space is the same. Space has not increased. So when people ask, new jivas are coming, new parts are coming. But not new. Space is not created. Space is the same. So vidyamanam punah punah, as even they are broken and again and again and again. And interesting thing is, the example has got always some limitation. You should understand that. Akashaha tad bhagnam na janati. Space being inert, it does not know brat is broken. Sajanati. But Atman is not like inert. Atman is self-aware and it is constantly aware of what is going on. Nityashaha, always it knows janati. So the example you have to understand with limitation. Unlike space, consciousness is aware of the birth and death. Whereas the space does not know the old part has broken and new part has come. No. Therefore, the idea here is, do not completely equate consciousness with space, because space is by nature inert. But consciousness is not. That needs to be understood. In other words, just like the space is not aware what is happening to the part even before death, before broken, whereas consciousness is aware of every condition of your upadhi. Kaumaram yavanam jara tata dehantara praptihi dhiraha tatra na muhyati parinamam drishtvapi. even as the changes are taking place, dhiraha tatra na muhyati. A man of knowledge will not get disturbed by that. Oh, I'm getting old. Oh, my body is changing. Oh, this has happened. So, he is aware but not concerned, disturbed by that. But when we are not identified with the pure consciousness, when we are only, at the level of strong identification with our own individuality, then everything that happens with the individual, we are definitely unhappy or happy about it. Somebody praises, we are happy. Somebody criticizes, we are unhappy. Because our identification is not with the limitless presence of consciousness, we are only identified with the limitations of the upadhis. So that is why in the Shvetashvara Upanishad, beautiful verse is given, Eko devas sarva bhuteshu gudaha sarva vyapi sarva bhutantaratma karmadyaksha sarva bhutadivasah sakshi cheta kevalo nirgunascha. Eko devaha, one alone is that. Devaha, your consciousness. Sarva bhuteshu gudaha, in all beings hidden. Gudaha, that very word guh means to hide. Gudaha means hidden. Gudatvad, God iti katyate. The word God is coming from the very nature of that consciousness hidden. In Tamil Nadu, there is a group of political parties who say there is no God. And in Coimbatore, where I grew up, there used to be a temple, a Ganesha temple, in the corner of a very busy street, traffic signal. Very big, and it's always very crowded, that temple, Ganesha temple. And in the corner of the temple, they put a stone, carved stone outside the temple. Think about the audacity of this political party. There is no God. And whoever thinks there is God is a stupid. Clearly. In Tamil, muttal, muda. जो भगवान को मानते हैं, जो मूढ़ है, very big, outside the temple. I mean, you cannot, because they are political party. Now, point is that when you say there is no God, what actually you mean by I am empty. अंदर कुछ नहीं है. So somebody afterwards put one more stone next to it. If there is no God, then you must be non-existent. Somebody who is Vedantin has put that stone also next to it. I don't know how many stones are now, maybe removed or whatever it is. A counter. If you say I am nobody, then why are you even talking about it? You are not existing. You don't exist. If you have to exist, then you must be somebody. So interesting. Eko devaha sarva bhuteshu gudaha sarva vyapi sarva bhutantaratma karma adyakshaha. He is the one who is witnessing all karmas, all that is going on in you. Sarva bhutadi vasaha sakshi. He is the very one because of whom you are able to engage in all action. Adyaksha means supervisor. Adi aksha. Aksha means what? Eyes or vision. Adi means super. So, supervisor. Karmadyaksha, supervising your all actions, making sure you are doing the right thing or whatever. Sarvavya, sarvabhuta adivasaha sakshi cheta. Cheta, consciousness. Kevalo nirgunascha. By itself is nirguna. With no attributes, no qualities. So even though hidden in everyone as a witness, but he does not have any other quality. Any of the qualities belong to Upadis. Now the question is, anybody would ask, if all that is said and done, Swamiji, is there really one jiva or many? That answer you have to give. Because what happened? Okay. Because it is apparently confusing when we see so many jivas with so many different characteristics and attributes. Even though you say Atma is Nirgunaha, but we see all the activities are based upon varieties of gunas, and no two individuals will have the same nature. Ever. In one fraction, at least a limit, a small aspect of it must be different from other. So much of varieties, millions of varieties are possible. No two leaves will look like the same. No two flowers will look like the same. Though when we look at it, from a very superficial angle, two flowers will look same. But you go deeper and deeper and you will find there are differences. Even in all the species. So what such a variety, that's what makes people get baffled. And how such a enormous millions and zillions of varieties are possible. But it is the standpoint of Vedanta is, even as you see the variety, there is definitely only one. The Gata Akasha and Maha Akasha, essentially there is no difference at all. So that is the point here. Now the thing is, even as you see the variety, when you start looking at the substratum, that shifting from the variety to the substratum is what is called jnanam. Only with the jnanam you will understand the variety is apparent. If you do not have the jnanam, you will be carried away by the variety. And that's where the raga, dvesha, everything starts. When we don't see the unity, then what we see only the multiplicity and diversity, and naturally that leads to raga, dvesha, and that then likes and dislikes. Then starts karma, and then karma has karma phalam, and then this whole cycle starts. So tatandarasya sarvasya tadu sarvasyasya bahyata. It is the within of all, and at the same time it is outside as well. Now certain points we have to note here. How can this knowledge release the jiva? Jnanat moksha. Jnanena moksha. Jnanad evad kaivalyam. When it is said that how this knowledge can release an individual from suffering as an individual being to immortality. Now we'll see some of the points I have noted down. See, first is, just as the notion of that space is limited inside the pot is dispelled, when it is dispelled, one discovers the space inside and outside are absolutely one and the same. In the same way, Atman should be realized as one and the same only upon knowing the false nature of the entire apparatus which we are holding on to, Upadi. That is the reason why the Upanishads are very clear about pointing out Naiti, 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 Ityadi. Vedireka. Removing the notion that the body is self, the mind is the self, the thought is the self, vasanas are the self, karana sharir as the self, prana as the self, all that needs to be slowly to be overcome. Jnanam alone can bring that, because in this process of negation, there is no action. क्या करोगे? मैं बॉडी, मैं देह नहीं हूं, उसके लिए क्या कर्म करोगे? बताओ. Stand upside down. Run on the fire. Poke yourself with some needles. Needles. What do you do? What action to be done? So then people say, Swami, ज्ञान में क्या कर्म, क्या साधन है? साधन क्या करना है, कर्म क्या करना है, क्या कर्म करोगे? मैं देह नहीं हूं, इसके लिए आप करो कुछ. What will you do? Huh? What action you can do? So therefore, jnana marg mein, it is an inquiry, it is a vichar. Nothing else can take there. Similarly, I am not my thought. What will you do for that? Go to sleep. What action you will do to falsify your thoughts? I am not my thoughts. What action can you do? So that is why again and again Shankaracharya says, Jnana karma samuchaya na sambhavati. Combination of action and knowledge is not possible because knowledge is against action. No action will increase your jnanam. No action can decrease your knowledge also. Once you are in the path, you realize no action that you do will increase your knowledge, except going to the teacher and learning that what is that is the only action you do. But again, there also, so when we are teaching in Sandipani also, so first few days the student, they will be sitting there learning, morning class, afternoon class, evening class. So being young, most of them are young, between 20 and 35, they get restless. The whole day we are sitting. In the beginning stage, there will be restlessness because they are coming from the world of action, and then all the day, they have not practiced that, all the day sitting and listening. That's why in the schools also you have what you call PA or PT, whatever it is. PA or PT? Soccer and then this and that. Why? You're sitting and listening for 1 or 2 hours, then you can get out. So the classroom, they keep it. From one class, you go to another class and then go to another class. And when we were studying, teacher comes and goes. His teacher's job will come and go. We were in the same place only. Whereas in the new system, there is the physics class and then you go to another room and another room. Because they need some activity. So when the brahmacharis come, then first few weeks they get miserable. Sitting and sitting and sitting and sitting and listening. And it's the same person, that too. Variety is also anything. The same person only talking. Same subject only is talking. That's why for the teacher also it's difficult, you have to make it interesting. You say the same thing, they say, this yesterday also I heard this. That's why varieties of texts, different approach to the same subject matter only. Brahmavidya only are at the end of the day, but varieties of ways of putting things. After some time, when they slowly get into the understanding or the practice of mananam, then they find they don't have time. The morning Gita is going on, the Upanishads is going on, Prakarana is going on, the Valmiki Ramayana, Tulsi Ramayana is going on, that. You don't have time to think. So you will find, so after some time, after a year or so, with the 2 or 2.5 year course, first year is over, everybody becomes so quiet. They walk alone. They are walking also. Because now thinking, what is said, I need to think, I need time to think. So even if you ask them to do anything, nahi. I can't do that. Why? I have to think. I have to reflect on it. So we know how the trend goes. After some time, the activities get less and less. Thinking starts more and more. You will see them slowly, staying in a solitude, going and sitting in a temple alone, or in some place of quietude. So that shows from the restlessness of the mind which always wants to do. Now, then, when the knowledge, understanding takes place, there is nothing to be done for this. No action can remove the notion of I am the body. No action can remove the notion I am the thought. No action can remove I am my ego. What will you do? Vichar, think. deny or dissolve the idea that I am the body, dissolve the idea that I am the mind. So next thing is, just like in a pot you put a content in that, it pollutes the space as though. Whatever you put inside the pot, it apparently pollutes the space, because you see the space inside is getting as though dirty. But in the same, just like the pot, inside the container or the pot, whatever is there can potentially pollute the space. In the same way, joys and sorrows created by the identification with the upadhis apparently appears to contaminate Atman. And therefore, my joys and sorrows created by my upadhis are not the same in your upadhi. Part A contains something which pollutes that space. Part B contains something else that pollutes that space. It cannot be the same. It would not be the same. In the same way, upadhikrita sukha dukkhani makes a jiva different from each other. That is why the perception of variety. My sukham and dukkham is not the same as your sukha dukkha. My upadhi creates sukha and dukkha, and therefore my experience of that is different as self, and your experience of yourself is different. This is the second point. Third point is that the space inside a smaller vessel is different from the space inside a bigger vessel. Right? It appears to be big. So similarly, when you look at a huge dinosaur or an elephant, Brahman is same. It doesn't look like. That is a huge Brahman. Because it is as so expressing itself in such a vast, body. And you say, how can me and that will be the same? Or a ferocious tiger you find with such an amount of physical strength. How can that powerful one be the same as me, the puny little one? So the variety is therefore by the expression through that particular upadhi. When large, huge animal and an individual can appear to be as though different from each other. This is so. Fourth point is, just like the space never get transformed into become a part space. It doesn't transform itself. It is undergoing no change. Similarly, Atman undergoes no change when it is inside the jiva. Absolutely having uncontaminated presence. Shuddha Brahma, Paratmara Ram. When we say Shuddha Brahma, pure self, even though it appears to have transformed itself as the part space, but really there is no real transformation that takes place. Part has birth, not the space. So jivas have a birth. Jiva means expression as an individual has got a birth, but not Brahman. That is no. That's why ajata. You to understand that. It is ajata. By very nature it is ajata. Bahuta eva drishyate api ajata heva. Even though subject to be seen to be born, etc., but there is no real birth there. Now the question is, why that a jiva feels oneself as different from the Brahman, Atman? Why? Why is that one does not have the feeling that I am Atman, I am Brahman, I am the blissful self? Why? Because of its identification with manaha, mind. Now what is this mind then? We have seen this elaborately in the previous few classes. Mind is movement of consciousness, apparent movement of consciousness. It has no independent reality. But we don't think it that way. Consciousness in movement is mind. This is substantiated by the Karika number 47 in Mandukya Upanishad. Rujuvakradika abhasam aladaspanditam yatha grahana grahaga abhasam vijnanaspanditam tata. Yatha, just as alata spandana movement. Alata is a fire stick. Now during the Diwali etc., you take a fire stick, that glowing stick, and then you tell the children, no, do this. When they do this, on a delayed perception, it looks like there is a circle there. When you do that, it appears to create a circle there, a chakra. So, and if you keep straight or do like this, there is a ruju. So, ruju vakradika abhasam. Straight or crooked perception of the alata, of this very fire stick. Spanditam yada, it appears to have movement. In the same way, grahana grahaka abhasam vijnana spanditam tata. The movement of consciousness make oneself feel there is a perceiver and a perception. Is there really a circle there? Huh? Who are those? Why are they moving about? They have to win the class or out. Why are they moving? I don't understand. So, there is no real circle or movement of, there is a lot of movement. So, the glowing stick has no real, it is not circle, it is not straight, it is only one point of glowing stick. In the same way, consciousness by nature it has no movement. But it appears to have movement, and that appearance of movement is what is called mind. This is the reason why in the practice of meditation, the reduction of the movement of the mind is prescribed. Kshanehi uparamet. Or yato nischaradi manaha chanchalam astiram tataha niyamya. Whenever there is a movement of the mind, stop there and bring it back. Otherwise, what happens when there is from point A to point B, the mind moves, what stops it to move from B to C, C to D, D to E, it starts moving in varieties of directions. And it is not in one linear direction. It can go in multiple ways at the same time, as though. It can connect links like so much. If you want to know, if you go to a party, you will know. Nobody knows who's talking to whom. Everybody is talking. Nobody is listening there. And somebody was talking, and one child is crying there, and then children are playing. Then you see the whole chaos there. And that's what they like. It's like Indian, wedding ceremony. Finally, you do not know who is getting married to whom also. Everybody looks the same, with the same dress. So, the mind from A to B, B to C, C to D, D, when it travels, you cannot stop it. Once it moves from A to B, unless you bring from B to A, we can go to C, we can go to D, E, F, G, it goes. Yato nischarati manaha astiram chanchalam manaha tataha niyamya. Then and there you should bring it back. That is the practice. So again, it is not an action, it is attention. You pay attention to the mind as it moves from point A to point B, go back to A. If you don't do that, it obviously by habit, it will start going all over the place. So that's why it is said, when a person sits in dhyanam, he is intensely active attention, not physically doing anything, but actively looking at the mind and making sure that it does not move too far away from you. Because by daily routine of our life, we never do that. We allow the mind to go wherever it wants to go and we go after it. It is thinking of A, it is thinking of B, thinking of Z, and this thing. Okay, that needs to be done, this is done, that is done, this keeps going. And we never think of bringing it back home. And by the time we are tired, chalo, so jayenge. Again get up, again starts. So, Rijuvyakratika abhasam aladaspanditam yata grahana grahaka abhasam vijnanaspanditam tatha. See, the firebrand is never in motion. It is neither crooked nor circle, straight. So, the consciousness also, which is now behaving like a mind, as though, is always still. By nature, consciousness is stillness. But when it has an apparent movement, see, the thing is, when you move the firebrand like this, fire stick like this, the circle that is created, is itself is an illusion. Therefore, the circle does not merge into the fire stick. There is no real merging of the circle into the fire stick. Correct? Nor you ever say from the fire stick the circle is created. Because the fire stick did not create, please make this point very clear in your mind. This fire stick did not create a circle out of itself. Never. Did it create? But you saw it. Did it create? Actually, the stick ever moved? You moved. Stick was in. When you move, stick is not moving. You are moving. Correct or not? In the same way, consciousness, even as it behaves like a mind, as such, no thought has really happened. It only appears to have created a thought, but it's not. And when you say, therefore, how do I merge my thought into the consciousness? Did it create, first of all? Is that consciousness created a mind? Is it two different things there? Is the circle and the light or the fire, the glowing light, are they two things? No. There is no two things here. So consciousness and mind are not two things. It has never created a mind. That's why it's called Ajata. Alata Shanti Prakaranam in Mandukya Upanishad. So, therefore, mind's appearance and disappearance also are elusive. If you think the mind has appeared, then you have to create a method of disappearance of the mind. So, because we have no attention on the self, we identify with the mind. Therefore, upon suffering because of the mind, we say, now I have to turn it back to consciousness. When did it not consciousness? If you say, if X A is born out of B, it has to go back to B. There is no real cause and effect relationship between these two. There is no cause and effect relationship between mind and the consciousness. No, consciousness and the mind. The whole thing is only, according to the Vedanta, clearly it is an appearance created by the very powerful one called Aghatita Ghatana. Yeah. What makes impossible made possible? What makes it appear even though it cannot be there? That is the nature of Maya. So the simple thing is mind there? If somebody asks, great Mahatmas like Ramana Maharshi would say, if you say it is, it is. If you say it is not, it is not. See, if I say I am happy, how do I know? Do I know? I may ask, are you happy? What do you say?
I know whether I'm happy.
No, I am asking, are you happy?
Yes.
Yes or no answer only.
Yes.
Who's the proof for that?
I'm
You are the proof.
I'm the proof.
So similarly, मन का, what is the proof for man? What is the proof for the mind? If you say so, it is there. If you understand it is not there, it is not there. Externally, you cannot, that which cannot be proven is called Maya. You see, avyaktanamni paramesha shakti anadyavidya trigunatmeya para karyanumeya. Only by you thinking it is there, it is there. If you understand it is not there, it's not there. But we do not have to take the bold step of denying its existence. है ही नहीं वो मानसम तो किम मार्गणे कृते नैव मानसम. But that is to digest that है ही नहीं mind. Very hard. Now, why then there is apparent presence of the mind? We so seriously take it. Next to us, beautifully explained. That is Shabda Matram. ये शब्द है बस. Mud is itself is the part. Where is the part other than the mud? You tell me. Is it not a name you give to a form? Where is that name present in that form? Tell me. Where is actually the form other than the mud present there? As part? What is there? Can you? ए, नाम दिया, रूप को नाम दिया, रूप और नाम ये दोनों एक ही चीज है, मड. Similarly, consciousness itself is now also experienced by all of us, even at the present moment, as mind, because we named it like that. बहुत बढ़िया. That is Mandukya. We'll see more of it in the next class. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah, Sarve Santu Niramayaha, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kaschid Dukkhabhat Bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.
Recording stopped.